From two planes in 1985, Emirates has grown into a global powerhouse that redefined the very idea of international travel. In less than 4 decades, it became one of the most extraordinary success stories in aviation history, connecting the world through Dubai and reshaping how people think about long-haul flying. This is the story of how Emirates rose to global dominance. From the very beginning, Emirates was built differently. When the airline launched on October 25, 1985 with just 2 leased aircraft, it had no illusions of becoming a subsidized national flag carrier. Dubai's leadership gave founding CEO Maurice Flanagan about $10 million in startup capital and a clear directive: look good, be good, and make money. The last part mattered. Unlike many state-owned carriers in the region, Emirates was expected to turn a profit and operate independently without relying on endless government bailouts. Dubai itself was in a turning point. Oil revenues had boosted the economy in the 1970s, but by the mid-1980s, leaders knew the Emirate couldn't rely on energy exports forever. They wanted to build a diversified, service-driven economy centered on trade, tourism, and finance, and aviation would be the engine that powered it. The Gulf was politically volatile, but Dubai was betting that stability at home and an open skies policy could make it a global crossroads. An airline based there, if done right, could capitalize on geography as much as ambition. The early years were about proving the model. The first flights connected Dubai to Karachi and Mumbai, short hops across the Arabian Sea that quickly established Emirates as a serious operator. Just 2 years later, the airline purchased its first own aircraft, an Airbus A310. That decision mattered more than just adding capacity. It signaled that Emirates wasn't content with being a small regional airline. By investing in wide bodies, it was setting its sights on long-haul routes that could link Dubai to Europe, Asia, and eventually the Americas. From the start, Emirates emphasized quality. Even in economy class, the airline offered generous seating, free drinks, and a service standard that rivaled what other carriers reserved for business travelers. This focus on customer experience gave the airline a unique reputation in its formative years. Paired with Dubai's location, almost exactly between Asia and Europe, a hub-and-spoke model began to emerge. Passengers flying from London to India or from Southeast Asia to Africa could now pass through Dubai as a convenient one-stop gateway. These early strategic moves laid the foundation for what would soon become one of the most aggressive expansions in aviation history. By the turn of the 1990s, Emirates had already proven its basic model: operate cleanly, sell quality, and grow deliberately. What changed in the decade that followed was scale. A steady, sweeping acquisition of range-capable aircraft, systematic route openings, and a brand-first marketing push that moved Emirates from a credible Gulf operator to a recognizable international carrier. The airline's fleet strategy shifted decisively from short regional hops to machines built for intercontinental reach. Early wide-body types gave Emirates the ability to go farther and carry more passengers, but the real inflection came with the Boeing 777, a long-range, high-capacity jet that arrived in Emirates' fleet in the mid-1990s and became the workhorse for opening North American, Australasian, and long-haul Asian routes. The 777's combination of range, payload, and favorable seat-mile economics allowed Emirates to test and then establish profitable, non-stop, and one-stop routes that previously would have been uneconomic for a Dubai-based carrier. At the same time, Emirates amplified its product offering. The carrier doubled down on cabin comfort, in-flight service, and a consistent brand image, not as a niche luxury operator, but as a full-service airline that made even long-haul economy travel feel premium. This was a deliberate market positioning move. By offering a reliably higher quality experience across classes, Emirates could attract both high-yield premium travelers and the growing middle-class transfer market traveling between Europe and Asia. Marketing investments and sponsorships during this period helped the name become familiar in major source markets, supporting demand growth that justified larger aircraft and more frequencies. Route expansion in the 1990s accelerated in measured waves. Europe and South Asia were consolidated first, then Africa and Australasia followed as bilateral rights, and Dubai's open skies posture gave Emirates room to operate routings other carriers either could not or would not prioritize. Dubai's single hub approach began to show scale benefits. Higher daily frequencies on trunk routes, fuller transits through Dubai, and the ability to feed multiple thin city pairs into one high-capacity sector. This hub optimization was a practical expression of economics. Instead of trying to serve every origin-destination pair directly, Emirates concentrated resources on a dense hub that multiplied demand. Fleet investment continued through the 1990s and into the 2000s. Emirates expanded its 777 fleet aggressively and experimented with other wide-bodies to balance capacity and range. These purchases were not mere status buys. Each aircraft type was evaluated against seat mile cost, maintenance profile, and the ability to serve target markets profitably. The late 90s and early 2000s network additions, including several major European capitals and long-haul gateways, were made possible by this careful matching of aircraft to market demand. Aviation analysis of the era credit these fleet decisions with allowing Emirates to underwrite aggressive frequency builds and capture transfer traffic that otherwise dispersed across competing carriers. By the mid-2000s, the industry was gearing up for a new chapter, the Super Jumbo. Emirates positioned itself near the front of that queue. Although the A380 would not come into commercial service until a few years later, Emirates' planning and orders in the 2000s signaled a willingness to bet on hub density. That bet was consequential. When the A380 finally arrived to Emirates later in the decade, it would allow the carrier to concentrate huge numbers of passengers on single flights between hubs while continuing to offer an outsized premium product. The decision to lean into super jumbos reflected a broader strategic logic. Where competitors fragmented demand over multiple frequencies and airports, Emirates would maximize revenue per flight through scale, product differentiation, and tightly engineered hub connections. Operationally and commercially, the 1990s to 2005 era was also the time Emirates built the systems and commercial partnerships that turned schedules into profitable streams. Cargo facilities were expanded in parallel with passenger networks. Sky cargo operations began to play an even larger role as freight lanes between Europe and Asia grew. The airline invested in ground infrastructure, lounge services, and interline marketing agreements that fed transfer traffic into Dubai. Cumulatively, these tactical moves, aircraft matched to routes, a predictable premium product, and a hub designed to concentrate global flows set Emirates up to scale explosively in the years after 2005 and to compete head-on with legacy carriers on long-haul routes. By the mid-2000s, Emirates was becoming a force defined by scale, premium product, and a financial muscle. In 2008, Emirates took delivery of its first Airbus A380, the Super Jumbo that would become a signature piece of its fleet and its marketing. Over the years, the A380 fleet grew steadily. By November 2017, Emirates had welcomed its 100th A380, operating the world's largest Super Jumbo fleet, flying to dozens of high-traffic global routes to 48 cities on 6 continents. This era was also characterized by sharp investments in infrastructure to support that massive scale. Emirates didn't just buy planes. It built the lounges, concourses, ground operations, and logistical systems necessary to make them work efficiently. Meanwhile, the cargo division, Sky Cargo, emerged as a powerful revenue pillar. As of fiscal year 2024-25, Sky Cargo carried around 2.3 million tons of freight, up about 7% from the prior year, aided by the delivery of new freighters. This resulted in revenue of about $4.4 billion, contributing around 11 to 13% of Emirates' total revenue. Cargo yield per freight ton kilometer also increased, returning closer to pre-pandemic levels after volatility. Financially, the latest years have been jaw-dropping. For the financial year ending on March 31st, 2025, the Emirates Group reported a profit before tax of about $6.2 billion, up 18% from the previous year. Revenue was about $39.6 billion, up about 6%. Cash assets stood at about $14.6 billion, also a new high. Emirates carried 53.7 million passengers that year, with seat capacity increasing by about 4%. Passenger load factor edged slightly down but remained strong in the high 70 percentile range. Cost pressures are always lurking. Fuel remains one of the biggest line items. In 2024-25, fuel accounted for about 31% of operating costs, down from 34% the previous year. That was helped by lower fuel prices and hedging gains even as flying and seat capacity increased. Employee costs and depreciation remain large slices of the cost pie as well. Part of what makes Emirates' expansion insane is how it handled crisis after crisis without derailing long-term momentum. During the 2008 financial crisis, many airlines pulled back. Emirates continued acquiring aircraft and expanding routes. During health crises like SARS in 2003 and later the global COVID-19 pandemic, the airline showed resilience. It leveraged cargo when passenger demand dropped, minimizing loss via operational flexibility and using its cash reserves. In the post-COVID era, this resilience translated into double-digit growth in the most recent years. Fleet modernization is also underway. The A380s, while iconic, are reaching maturity, and although no new ones are being built, Emirates is refurbishing many A380s with newer cabins and products to maintain appeal. The airline is also incorporating newer aircraft types, including orders for the 777X and use of the Airbus A350s, both for fuel efficiency, range, and cost improvements. Route and network growth also remain aggressive. As of the 31st of March, Emirates was serving 148 cities in 80 countries. 2 new destinations launched were Bogota and Madagascar. Ultimately, Emirates today sits at a peak. Hundreds of large wide-bodies, tens of millions of passengers, multiple revenue streams, strong financials, and high utilization. Yet even this is only a launching point. With massive orders in line, emerging cost pressures, and changing customer expectations, the airline is pushing into the next frontier of expansion. Emirates' performance across the last decade is not just about scale. At the simplest level, the airline's margins come from 4 interlocking advantages: a high-yield route network, a product mix that disproportionately monetizes premium passengers, a large and growing cargo operation that cushions passenger volatility, and disciplined fleet and cost management that squeezes down seat mile costs while maximizing utilization. Put together, those elements produce a business model that routinely outperforms legacy carriers on profitability metrics and has driven Emirates to industry-leading results in the most recent reporting period. Looking forward, the outlook is broadly positive but tempered by clear headwinds. Emirates' order book and fleet strategy point to continued emphasis on fuel-efficient long-haul types. Firm and expected deliveries of the 777X and additional A350s and freighters will help lower seat mile costs and increase flexibility in deployment. The group has signaled investments in a multi-year retrofitting program and plans for further network expansion into undeserved long-haul markets. Emirates' current strategy as one of the world's most profitable airlines isn't an accident. It is the result of repeated choices that together create consistently high yields and resilient margins. The 2024 results demonstrate the power of that model at scale, while the airline's pipeline of fleet renewals and product investments shows management believes the same levers will sustain profitability into the next decade, even as new regulatory and economic challenges emerge. From just 2 planes in 1985 to one of the most profitable and far-reaching airlines in the world today, Emirates has redefined what's possible in global aviation. Its growth has been nothing short of extraordinary, driven by smart strategy, bold fleet choices, and a relentless focus on premium service and profitability. Few carriers can match the scale or margins Emirates has achieved, and its story is still unfolding as it looks toward the future with new aircraft, new markets, and new challenges. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the expansion of Emirates, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take on where you think Emirates is headed next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.